I'm Paul Middleness and I run Merchant and Found and we sell vintage. So today I want to explain a little bit about the history of chairs, and we're going to talk about Bentwood chairs, which is a term you might know a little bit about. So I'm going to start off with, this is a church chair. This is not a Bentwood chair, but this is, you'll all recognise this if you've been to church, or these days you see them in pubs, restaurants, cafes and so on. This is the classic English church chair, made for literally since the 1820s. Obviously those ones have gone. This is probably a 1920s church chair. But this is a traditional way of making chairs for hundreds of years, and you'll see the difference when I show you a Bentwood chair. I just want to give you a quick comparison, but this has got a solid chunk of wood as a seat. The legs are straight, it's all reinforced under here. This back leg it's all solid ash or elm. I think this is elm, that's ash. But it's all cut and made from solid timber, and that's traditionally how they made church chairs. And it's traditionally how the Victorians, Chippendale, Sheraton made chairs for hundreds of years, because they were just cut and made different designs, different techniques, but that's how you made a chair. In the early 19th century, there was a man called Michael Tonnet, and he had a very clever idea to mass produce chairs. And he was a cabinet maker, and he, very intelligent, very inventive guy, tried to come up with ideas and succeeded to mass produce chairs, beautiful chairs, but at a lower cost. And the only way to do that was to mass produce them. So that's the most famous chair that he made. It's called the A14. Let me come on to this. The church chair that you saw is solid wood. You can't bend solid wood. You know that. This is veneer. You've all heard the term veneer. It is solid wood, but it's basically very thin slices of wood. And when you sharpen a pencil and you get the little shavings, that's exactly how they make veneer. It's probably a millimetre thick. You can bend it. It's quite fragile. You can break it. But the beauty of it is you can bend it. He invented basically the way of bending wood. So that started off as a solid piece of wood, and it is literally bent. This ring at the back is one solid piece that is bent. So it started off as a long chunk of wood and it was bent. He was the first one to do it, and he patented it. His very clever invention was, and you can see exactly on this piece, when you bend something, wood is it's a cellular structure, it's a natural material. When you bend it, the outside of the bend stretches and the inside of the bend compresses. He created a very clever way of creating a mold that was made of steel. So he bent it in the mold like that, and it actually changed the cellular structure of the wood, so you could bend it. And this end was compressed. This end was slightly compressed, but the cells moved across. Now this is an unusual one because it's broken, but this is a component that's 100 years old. This is a bent ring, which is basically the ring from underneath the chair, and it survived because of his rare process. And he was the only one that came up with it. He patented it, and in those days the patents ran for 50 years. When the patents ran out, everyone else produced the same chairs, but we'll come on to that. So, this chair is basically made of components. So you've got the seat component, which I've got a version of. Obviously this one's round, this one is a different shape. This is made from one single piece of wood. You can actually see here where they've joined the wood at the back. So it's literally bent all the way around, it's joined here, and it's pegged with wooden pegs to hold it together. Incredibly strong, mass produced, so very cost effective. So that's effectively the seat. The legs, depending on the chair, were slightly bent. Sometimes these were actually just cut. Support ring underneath, which is this. Same thing, this is a very interesting early one, but you can see how it's been joined at the back and someone's crudely repaired it with a piece of metal. but that is the ring that supports it underneath, and then all the other components. And that back leg is literally one bent piece of timber. This one's put on. This is a very, very early example. So actually you can see here where they've screwed this together, they've hand cut little plugs to cover up the screw holes. So this piece is another component. These are sometimes added as a support for the chair, but the original A14 chair didn't have those components. That's just a strengthening. So by mass producing the components, he got the cost of the chair down. The second thing he did, which was incredibly clever, is he then made the components and had warehouses all around Europe where you could assemble the chairs. So he shipped, I'm going to say trucks, but it wouldn't have been trucks, it would have been horse loads or canals or boats full of components. So you saved all the transport. So he invented flat pack furniture back in the early 19th century.